Reading I Ching. Yin and Yang. The most basic unit that constitutes I Ching is the harmony of Yin and Yang. So if we can define a little more clearly about what Yin and Yang means, it will help us understand the theory of I Ching better. In fact, the dichotomous concept of Yin and Yang does not only appear in I Ching alone, but also in the tarot cards from the West, often represented as the harmony between masculine and feminine power. The concept is also explained as the power to distinguish between the real world and the ideal world, each of which is represented as heaven and earth in I Ching. There are many similarities between the dual concept of Yin and Yang, and that of tarot cards, which shows that such concept is universal, across the East and the West. Typically, the main criterion that distinguishes the power of Yin and Yang is that while Yang is a force that points to the direction and drives a new task forward, Yin is a consistent and steady force that maintains and develops the task. Therefore, the power of Yin and Yang cannot accomplish anything if they exist separately. If you do not actually put an effort in realizing an idea, and simply keep chasing after new ideas over and over, you will get nowhere. On the contrary, if you try as hard as you can, without deciding on a specific direction to move forward, you may not be able to get to the place you actually wanted. Therefore, the Yang and Yin should always be in harmony with each other. In many cases, Yin is described as a power that follows Yang. It is natural in the sense that Yang is a power to start a task, and Yin is a power to complete it. However, you should remember that it does not mean that Yin is any weaker or less important than Yang. Without Yin, it may not be possible to keep the original momentum of Yang's strength, and the motivation may slowly disappear as time goes by. In some ways, the strength of Yin that represents the concrete system and rules to maintain a task, may be more powerful than the power of Yang, which may come and go freely at any moment. However, it is also not true that Yin should always follow Yang. The creative idea of Yang's power is not something that can suddenly appear out of nowhere. On the contrary, new thoughts and ideas can spring up only when it is based on a stable system. Historically, the time when culture was flourishing was not the period when it was filled with anxiety and crisis. It was during the period when it was stable in political and social aspects. In many cases, people often say that Yang is heaven and Yin is earth, or that Yang is a man and Yin is a woman. There may be some aspects that can be explained through such a metaphor, but I personally think that such a direct mapping to objects often creates misunderstanding of the concept. One of the most commonly misused examples is this: a man is heaven and a woman is earth. Yang relates to the meaning of heaven, in the sense that it represents non-practical and unconventional thoughts and ideas, or intuitions far distant into the future. On the other hand, Yin relates to the meaning of the earth, in that it represents concrete and tangible reality, or the fruits of the present effort. Likewise, Yang represents the traditional image of father, who corrects wrongdoings, and drives you to the right path with powerful and instantaneous force, while Yin represents the traditional image of mother, who keeps the order of the family, while nurturing and cultivating everyone with love. Note that Yin and Yang are no more than a pair of simple symbols, and that they do not define what and how men or women should behave. The next most misunderstood concept is that Yang is light and Yin is darkness. Going even further, people often think that Yang is a good and positive meaning, while Yin is bad and negative, because they often relate light with the good, and darkness to the evil. However, this time again, I want to emphasize that Yin and Yang has nothing to do with good and bad, or right and wrong. If there is light, there must be darkness somewhere. The world needs darkness as much as it needs light. Can you think of a life in which every day is filled with light, and so you cannot have a moment of rest that the night brings? Of course, contrary to that, it will be also meaningless to continue being in darkness and rest only. Only the proper balance and harmony of the two opposing forces can help you create a rich and prosperous life. In addition, Yin and Yang are often likened to various aspects of the world, such as inside and outside, self and others, forward and backward, challenge and rest, individual and whole, luck and effort, ideal and reality, goal and process, and so on. You can also add your own features not explained in this series. Whatever analogy you may attribute to the concept, it is important to always remember that the energy of yin and yang cannot exist independently, and cannot be said to be right or wrong in itself. Negative interpretation can often be made, when either power of yang or yin becomes too great, and start to overpower the other. So, if you encounter the influence of yang, you should not only think whether you should act on yang's power, but at the same time, you should also consider the negative effect, when you rely on it too much. However, it is not always bad to be biased. In the theory of I Ching, we often say that an extreme leads to another extreme. If the energy of yang becomes too strong, the power of yin will appear, and if the energy of yin becomes too strong, the power of yang will be born. By concentrating on one aspect, you may end up with getting the opposite effect, and by pursuing one extreme, you may end up enriching the ground, on which another extreme may be born. We talked about how to keep the balance and harmony between the power of yin and yang. If you think more deeply about various forms and features of yin and yang, and how they may change and interact, you may start to understand more about the true meaning of I Ching.